Hi, I'm Jason Hensley. I'm going to be talking to you about systemisation. As a qualified systemologist, we work with businesses to be able to create time, to be able to allow you to go away on that holiday with your family where you're not dragged back into your business. So looking forward to spending some time. This is my story.
Welcome to the Fair Business Australia podcast. Future-proof your business, impact your community. I'm your host, Rebecca Lloyd.
Welcome, Fair Business Australians, to another episode of the Fair Business Australia podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have with me a gentleman that I met as part of a coaching mentoring group. His name is Jason, as you just heard. He is the owner, founder of H2H Digital. And for those of you business owners who are absolutely terrified about the Great Resignation, and you're an octopus, everything revolves around you and you are the blocker for your business and you're frankly quite tired, Jason has the solution for you today, many solutions. In fact, Jason, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for giving up your busy time. And I believe that you can give up your time because you are systematized. Is that correct?
Systemisation is so important for businesses, and that's certainly what drove me into that area where we can really make a difference with businesses and free up their time. And we'll get into some of those things. But thank you very much for having me on your podcast. Looking forward to having a chat and exploring a whole range of things, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking before we came on camera about which way we're going to go with this podcast, because Jason does serve small to mediums of, 0 to 5 employees, 10 to 20 employees, 20 to 40 employees. I thought, we really need to discuss the Great Resignation and the fact that systematization is very, very lacking in a lot of businesses. If you've got a great idea and a great marketing plan and a great sales team, you will scale. But as you scale, if you don't have the systems in place, it is a house of cards and you will end up absolutely fighting fires. So let's talk about this Great Resignation and the extreme overwhelm that a lot of business owners are having. They've managed to fortify themselves and their staff through COVID. And now that COVID is finished, I guess we all thought that we'd breathe a big sigh of relief and everything would get back to that hated term, new normal. And yet the new normal is not very normal. It's actually quite stressful. And we see a lot of issues where staff are not as robust as they used to be. They have, emotionally, they're quite fatigued. Business owners are quite fatigued. And never before have we seen the need for such systems as now. So what's your take on what you're experiencing in the marketplace with your clients?
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's because people are now so much more working from home. So previously you might be able to firefight things in the office or in the workplace because you were there, and you may not have even been noticing that you were doing it so much. But now we've also now got a greater disconnect with the way that we're people wanting to work, and so really, look. To be honest, systemisation isn't a new concept. It's something that has changed businesses all the life, but it's almost a holy grail in business that it's like, I'm searching for it. I think the theory of it sounds all right, but it doesn't work for me, is a lot of businesses' approach. But what we try to do is just try to break it down into really simple, practical steps that you can then start to be able to, all right, I need to first understand how we do it and establish the set of rules or the set of guides of how we're going to do it. And I call that creating the system or building the instruction sheet or the manual. And then from there, it is really just a matter of, all right, then you've got to make sure you've got the buy-in of your team. All right, so do they know how to do it? They know how to access it. And then when you get to the point where you've got people going that, I'm not sure how to do that, let's look at the system. You're making some grounds and you're getting there. And when you get to the point where people can go, all right, the system, we don't have anything on that. We need to systemize that. We need to capture that. And that's where, and I guess that's when that you're starting to do that. But normally business owners are technicians and they're really good at what they've done, and that's why they've thought, in a light bulb moment, I want to get into business, I want to have my own control and that side of things. But everything else that comes with it is a hard all your accounting, your onboarding of staff, your training of staff, getting them to do how everything comes through. And what we're wanting to do with systemization is just be able to go, oh, this is how we want to do it, and then allow people to go, oh, this is an easy way to onboard them, train them how to do it, measure them against it also, and then be able to step back and let your team run the business for you. And you can then focus on that higher value stuff that typically business owners are really good at, is the strategy, the planning, opposed to the firefighting down the bottom.
So why do you think, Jason, business owners don't pay attention to putting those systems in place as they start to grow their business? Do you have a lot of business owners that come to you that have very, very little systemization apart from what is absolutely essential? What's your take on that?
Yeah, a lot of business owners, it's a lot of the times they think they're the ones that are having to systemize their business or create the systems. And 90% of the time, they're the wrong person. They should not be systemizing or capturing the information. So that's one area, is or they've tried it once, they've tried to create a manual or tried that, and it just didn't work. We talk about there's 3 components that you need to be able to systemize your business, and you need all 3. You can't just do really well on one. And so there's certainty, performance, and buy-in. So certainty is around that. We know how do we do things, all right? So it's documented, it's established, and it covers the whole range of business, not just a component of your business. Performance is, so you've got simple software, but you've also got ways to be able to measure people are doing what they've been asked to do. And then the last one is that buy-in component, and that's that people. You've got a culture of being a systemized business. And so without components of all those 3, you don't get to the point where you've got a systemized business. And at the end of the day, a systemized business is one thing, but what a business owner is after is complete business reliability. That's the underlying driver for within systemization, and within the methodology that we follow, is what we're trying to achieve for business owners, is to be able to have a business that can run without you. If an opportunity comes up to, I know, you go over an overseas trip, or you need to be, something comes up personally that you need to, I need to just disappear for a couple of months, you can have that certainty. Well, I've got processes and things in place. And never mind the point when you get to the point when you think, oh, I want to exit my business, I want to sell, the price that you get for that being a well-systemized run that's not dependent on one person, opposed to just having to walk away from your business because you've got nothing.
Which we absolutely want to avoid.
Absolutely.
To play devil's advocate for just a moment, I can practically hear a few business owners screaming through the screen, well, that's all well and good, Jason, but how do I get buy-in? I can do the systems, I can do the measuring, I can do the KPIs, I can do the high value activities, but what about buy-in? How do we do buy-in? When employees are fatigued, they don't have that centralized vision. They're not the one that decided on the back of a napkin one day to solve the world's problems with this particular business. They're there to clock in, they're there to clock off, they're there to do, varying degrees of a reasonable job. So I noticed you've got a book back there, and you are a
it's a systemologist.
Systemologist.
So the methodology that we follow, that I follow, is based off the book of Systemology, which is David Jennings, who's a Melbourne-based guy who's built and ran a number of different businesses, and he developed the framework and what worked for him, and then has extracted that and then built a framework to be able to systemize a business. And Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, actually forwarded that book, and that's sort of the standing that David's been put in of that type of value of bringing businesses. So to answer your question before, so how do you get buy-in from your team? All right, and there's a couple things. One of the first, and we talk about there's a couple of accelerators for buy-in. And one of them is making sure you've got the right people doing the right type of tools, and particularly around systemization. And that's why I said most business owners are not the right person to be able to capture the content, because they're ideas people, they're busy and they're flat out. Whereas, but having someone that's not detail orientated, isn't logical or process driven, they're not the right people either. And so what we actually do is one of the things, we have a test that we can put people through to go, are you a good fit to become what we refer to as a systems champion inside your business? So they're the central person to be able to gather the information, to be able to, they're not the subject matter expert in it. They're just the ones to extract the information, put it together, and then go out and communicate it. But there's more to be able to get buy-in in that sense. There's also to be able to get have it part of your culture. So when you're employing new people, part of your onboarding process, you actually incorporate it part of it. So some people that aren't systems driven, they might self-select out because they go, I don't think I can work in this type of environment. But also some will self-select in and go, wow, these guys have got some core steps and processes. And then suddenly you'll get a ROI on it, because instead of taking 3 months to get someone up to speed, you might get them up to speed in 6 months, 6 weeks, because they can just refer to that, and you haven't had to spend 2 months working with them, holding their hand the whole time. They can just progress on it. Now, I will say the hardest people to buy in is your existing staff. And I think a little bit of that does come from having a real strong culture or a strong leader in the business. So the owner has to buy onto it, not just sort of go, oh, we're going to give it a go and see how it goes, but to actually buy into it and communicate that to their team that, all right, we want this is going to make a difference to it, and it's going to make a difference to you also, because we might be able to take some of that low level work that you're doing and hand it to someone else, because we've got it clearly documented. So you can then actually be working on higher level, more interesting projects than the basic level stuff that they might be working on. So there's conversations to have, and there's certainly a leadership role for businesses in there.
You really surprised me there when you talk about that the business owner is not often the best person to be putting the systems in place. I'm a self-confessed consummate control freak, and I love putting systems in place, and I love setting the KPIs. What I will say is that it's a jolly slow process, because I am the person that is already doing everything and then trying to put systems in place in my spare time, which is none. So again, playing devil's advocate, what do you say to business owners who are just a little bit struggling to let go of the process of ensuring that they know that every I is dotted, every T is crossed? How do we actually hand that off? And what does that process actually look like when it comes to a time frame? Because I know for me, I'm always putting systems in place, partly because we're still in startup, but I'm always constantly documenting, tweaking, refining, documenting, tweaking, refining, setting a new KPI. What could somebody with an established 10 to 40 employees expect when they partner with you? You are a licensed systemologist. What kind of time frame would they be looking at to be able to have some sort of systems in place where they could buy back some of their time and not be away from the business, still being anxious, so they're not actually away from the business even though they're physically not at the premises?
Yeah, great questions. So the approach that we take, we start with what we call the critical client flow. And the critical client flow is just a linear journey of someone hearing about you, expressing an interest, going through your sales process, then the product or service is delivered, and then you invoice, and then you either do referral or sell them something again. So where we start is we just go, because one of the issues with systemization, you sort of go, where do I start? It is just so big, particularly if you don't have much, and it becomes overwhelming, and then you end up just going, oh, I'm walking away. So we use that as our starting point to go, all right, well, let's document your critical client flow, all the steps through there, so you can then have some confidence as a business owner that, all right, the key components that now, if you sell multiple products and multiple services, you can't do the whole lot because they probably vary a little bit through that. So we normally say, what is your core service, and work through that. And so that's the first. And what we do, we in a 12 session, which can normally go with once a week or once a fortnight or even once a month, just depending on your time commitment or your team's time commitment, and such side of things. So we then just work through it, and that's capture the critical client flow. We capture what systems we need to develop out of that, and then we talk to and work with those that are the knowledgeable worker in those areas. And then from there, we're just then extracting what we learn. We put that into a systems management software, and you can have your own. There is one that we recommend, and then that then becomes your single source of your information. And look, the reality is, after we've done that, you don't have a fully systemized, automated business, and you can go away 3 months. But you've made some significant steps. The next phase or next sprint that we then work on is the minimal viable systems that you need. So then we start looking at some of the other areas of your business. So your accounting or your finance side of things, because you want to pay staff, you have to make sure you reconcile your income, and you've got to pay your vendors and all that, everything that components that, what management systems you need to capture to be able to how you're reporting, what your KPIs are, and different things, and also your HR side of things. So we then focus around some of those areas and capture, well, how do those steps work? What are the processes in those areas? And then once we've finished those sort of 2 12-session sprints, we are then approaching that minimal viable solutions that you've captured a strong component of your business, and you should then be able to step back a little bit more. But you've also, as a leader, you've got to make sure you drive it as your culture, because if people keep coming to you, which they will, because you've taught them that, is you've then got to turn around and go, oh, okay, all right, let's go and have a look at our systems. Do we have anything in there? Oh, yes, we do. Great, we'll follow that. See how you go. If you have any problems, come back, and what we'll do is we'll improve it or fix it or modify it, because it may not be right. Because we do need to be absolutely clear that creating a system, it's not we create it once and leave and forget. And you said before, well, I'm constantly refining and improving it. It is a living document, and it always will change. You'll be forced to change sometimes, and other times you'll just say, oh, I can actually optimize this area and improve this area. And that's actually our last stage of systemology, which is to optimize. And to be honest, optimize, I love doing because I've come from a tech background. I want to be able to help and save businesses time with smart technology solutions. And so that's where we can, where one of the steps where is actually bringing some improvements area, because now we understand how you do it. But now we can work through, we can use a tool like Zapier to bypass some of that double entry. Maybe we need to look at a totally new CRM tool because you're running everything on paper, or whatever those sorts of tools are.
It's such good words. I so crush all over this stuff. I just love it. And I want to harken back to you saying that just because you put a system in place, it doesn't mean that it's going to be totally robust straight away. But it also means that your business isn't going to be running off a gazillion and one spreadsheets, and everyone has a different updated version of said spreadsheet. Yeah. And oh my goodness, it's so good. And I also love that if there's an issue in the business, is it the employee or is it a system? Is it a bad employee or is it a bad system? And having proper systemization in place will more appropriately weed out the non-players than people who are really, really trying, but they're just working with some really lousy tools and systems, right?
Yeah, that is that's gold. That's gold. That, and one of the things we say is it should, from a business owner, take away that blaming, that culture of roaring at someone. You should know how to do this. You should be better than this. I've shown you 200 times how to do this. And you can withdraw, and then you can go, oh, we can blame the system. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's the system's fault. Now, if it's clearly, there's always an opportunity they just didn't even bother following the system. But then you can, at least from a management perspective, deal with that from a performance perspective, but opposed to just being, oh, I've shown you how to do that 3 weeks ago on Tuesday. Don't you remember? And that sort of stuff. But you can just sort of go, well, let's look at the system. Let's blame the system and let that be your business culture to go, all right, well, we can improve it then. We can fix it then. And it's certainly, that's some of the stories that with businesses that have used, put systems in, and using the systemology model, that the business owners give feedback, that even that culture is something that modifies in your business.
Oh, so good. So speaking of stories, obviously without sharing any, obvious details, do you have any stories of people that have just been pulling their hair out? They're totally blocked. They're totally exhausted. The staff are screaming at them. They're screaming at the staff, but it was the lack thereof or a terrible system in place. Do you have any stories about people that you've helped along the way?
There's a few stories, and I might actually borrow a few stories from David Jennings. He's been doing he's been doing a long time, but Daddy Daycare, or Doggy Daycare, get the right, not Daddy. Doggy Daycare was a business down in Melbourne who reached out to David a number of years ago and said, oh, we're everywhere. We don't have any consistency in the way that we do it. I'm stressed to my max. And there's actually somewhere you'll be able to look up on YouTube and be able to listen to their testimonial. But they worked with David. They were able to then work through those processes that I just discussed before around capturing how do we do that, communicating that to staff to make sure that's all right, this is how we want to do it, optimizing and improving their processes through that. And they got to the point where they were bought by a large a pet business because they had such a franchised or that sort of franchise tool set in their business to be able to get a massive ROI on their business compared to what they were before. And so it's also it's an amazing strategy to be able to scale your existing business, but it's also a significant investment if you want to sell your business, and something that it really gives you a lot of returns in lots of different areas.
That's the whole thing, isn't it? Being able to sell your business, not just walk away, shut up shop because you just can't do it anymore because you're absolutely too fatigued and just can't be bothered. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's talk again. The 10 to 40 employee type business owner that's going, okay, you're speaking my language. I hear you. I know I need systems. I can pinpoint a few areas where a system in place would be fantastic. I'm glad to hear that I'm possibly not the person to do that system. I'm glad to hear that you have a framework around putting said system in place. So what would be the next step for somebody watching this interview today as to how they could reach out to you and get a little taste test first? I do understand that you have a download that they can get. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we've got I've got a system that is a system for creating systems. So if you're wanting just a bit of a taste of what a system could look like, one of the things we say when we're building systems is, well, you actually need a process to actually create a system, or or an instruction sheet. And so that's available to anyone. If you jump on and do what you need to do, that's a link that you can have a look at and digest. And so absolutely you can do that. But then there's all the detail on my website around the servicing for systemisation that we provide, and the type of levels that we can work with. And so one of the services we do is a concierge service. So that is our top level service, where we come in and it takes the less effort for you as a business owner, but also your team, to be able to then extract that content, get that into a systems management system, and that then we can start communicating that with your team to be able to say, all right, here we go. This is how we do these steps. This is how we do that. And we'll work with you through that process and the key people in their businesses.
Ah, so good. How many more times do you want to go around the mountain, folks? How many more times do you want to have to fire a staff member to then lie in bed later on thinking, maybe that wasn't actually their fault. Maybe that was the system. I don't know. You need to know. You need to win your life back. You need to earn your life back by getting in touch with H2H Digital. Do jump on, get that download and get in touch. You also do health checks for businesses as well, don't you? So that they can actually diagnose where am I at and what is actually going wrong, because basically just tired, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we can work with businesses is just go through what we call our systemology model. And what that does, looks at those components that I spoke around, is certainty, performance, and buy-in, and the accelerators that link to each one of them. And then we just do a bit of a grading on each one of them. And that really just highlights that systemization is not just around capturing your documents. There's more to it that needs to be put in place to be able to achieve what you're after of that complete business reliability. But what we also need to make sure, and so that just gives you a snapshot of where you're at and some of the maybe the core areas that you need to work in, or where you're strong in, and then that's also a helpful tool for me while I'm working with you. Or if you're deciding to just keep it in-house, for those people that are working in-house to be able to go that. So you need to reach out for me to if you want to have a look at that as a product, or that as a to go through that with you. But that's absolutely something that we do as part of our introducing systemology to people.
So good. And finally, before I let you go, give us one story about a business owner that you have worked with that had a wonderful success story, so that the person watching right now that's going, yeah, okay, it all sounds good, but I'm already really fatigued. I don't have any more room on my plate for anything else, even if I can see the light, potentially. Let's really drive it home as to why it's so important for them to reach out today.
Yeah, so one of the businesses I've worked with is very busy, actually run multiple different businesses, but one of the things they're wanting to do was actually franchise their business. Now, when we do a review of what they currently have, they have a really good business, and they've got a really good model in what they're wanting to sell, and it will go really well. But what they didn't have in behind it, and particularly if you're wanting to franchise, you're selling a package of, this is how we do things. So we've been working with them, be able to extract, these are the steps that we do, and to be able to then get it to a point for this business where they've actually just started them. I've only been working with them for the last almost year, but we've got to the point where we're actually starting to get expressions of interest. That's a really exciting project that I've been working on for a business. And without working with someone like myself in that, they wouldn't have been able to achieve where we've got that to. That's because they are that typical. In this case, this guy's actually as much as an entrepreneur I've ever seen. He's always got ideas and things like that, but he's not process driven. He's not detail driven, or anything in those areas. So, and that's where we're able to come in and provide guidance in that area, provide direction. And he's still the one that we're having to extract that content out of, but he doesn't have to then write it up, put it into the system, approve it, make sure it's clear, that side of things. And so it makes it an easy process for him to be able to have that information captured and then ready for what will be his future franchisees.
So good. So well, folks, you know as well as I do that if you're a head in the clouds and you've got all these grand ideas, you need someone like Jason. You know, if you're far more process driven, even though you are partially creative, you know that you need someone like Jason to take some of the load off of you. Either way, do reach out to the link, get your free download, get your health check as well. Reach out for a health check so that you can become a robust business where you can point to systems being the issue, not staff, where you can buy back your time, where you can finally not be the blocker, have a saleable, franchisable even business, because when your business is franchisable, your business gets top dollar on the market when you sell. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure because I love systems. I do systems all the time. And I would love to get you back to talk about some of the other things that you do. Jason also does HR and some other really interesting things as part of his business offering, but we wanted to keep it quite narrow for you people that need systems today. So thank you very much again for joining us, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Excellent. And look, it's great chatting to you. Thank you for what you're doing in this space. And looking forward to meet some of the people that are engaging and wanting some help. So reach out. We'd love to. Like H2H Digital, we stand for Here to Help. That's what our brand is. That's what my heart is to be able to here to help, make a difference in businesses, take some of that stress, create some time. And if you haven't been away with your family from holidays because you just can't get away in business, well, there's symptoms. You've got some problems, and Systemisation can make a big difference to you. And if you need some help, reach out. We'd love to have a chat.
So good. Thank you so much, Jason. Folks, thanks for tuning in today. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing systems with you. Certainly a topic very, very close to my heart. If you have a great business idea or a community initiative that you'd like to get out to our ever-growing audience, around 120,000 and growing, we would love to hear from you. Please do reach out. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great day. Remember, you're awesome. Chat soon, and God bless.
Have you got a great business or community initiative you'd like to share with our podcast audience? We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us today at fairbusinessaustralia.com.au.